Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another untold Hollywood story. Today, we're diving into the life of Vivien Vance, a woman the world thought lived in constant laughter, but who carried wounds far deeper than anyone imagined. Behind the comedy, behind the applause, and behind the timeless charm of I Love Lucy, there existed a story filled with struggle, silence, and quiet strength. And once her truth finally surfaced, it changed how the world remembered her forever. This is the journey you were never told. For decades, people believed Vivien Vance lived under the glow of happiness, standing proudly beside America's favorite redhead. But the laughter the audience adored often hid the reality she was living behind the scenes. Vivian's life was a series of battles, emotional, personal, and professional, that shaped the woman she became. Her story begins far away from Hollywood lights, in a small town where dreams were discouraged instead of nurtured. It's here that we meet a young girl with a spark no one understood, and it's here that we see how her scars began. Vivian was born Vivian Roberta Jones on July 26, 1909 in Cherryvale, Kansas. She grew up in a strict Methodist household where acting was considered sinful. Her mother believed the stage was dangerous, shameful, and morally corrupt. But even as a child, Vivian felt something calling her, singing, performing, pretending. Every time she showed talent, she was punished or warned that her dreams would lead her straight to hell. In a family of 6 children, she was the outsider, the one whose spirit didn't fit the walls she was raised in. When the family moved to Independence, Kansas, Vivian discovered her first taste of freedom. She found school plays, music, and the joy of performing in secret. She began sneaking out at night to join rehearsals, running toward the life she wasn't allowed to claim. And it was here she met someone who would change everything, her drama teacher, Anna Ingleman. For the first time, an adult encouraged her talent instead of shamming it. Her world slowly began to open, even as her home life stayed painfully rigid. Vivian threw herself into cheerleading, beauty contests, and school productions. She even shared classrooms with future playwright William in G. But no matter how bright she shined at school, she always returned home to criticism and strict rules. Eventually, she made a bold decision. She abandoned her birth name and chose Vivien Vance, inspired by folklorist Vance Randolph. It was her way of creating a new identity, one she hoped could finally escape judgment. And with that, she left Kansas behind, physically and emotionally. In her early 20s, Vivian headed to Tulsa and later Albuquerque, where she began performing at the Little Theater. Her talent quickly captured attention. She grew so popular that the building was renamed the Vivien Vance Playhouse in her honor. With encouragement from the community, she boarded a train to New York with just $50 and a suitcase. She didn't know where the journey would lead, but she knew she had to prove she was more than the warnings she'd grown up with. Her path to greatness and heartbreak was just beginning. New York in the early 1930s became Vivian's training ground. She worked long days as a waitress and spent her nights auditioning anywhere she could. Rejection was constant, but she refused to give up. In 1932, her break finally came when she landed a chorus role in Music in the Air. The production ran 2 years and helped her build a reputation for timing, humor, and unmistakable charm. But even as her career rose, her personal life began to crumble behind the curtain. At just 19, Vivian married Joseph Danica Jr. Hopping marriage might bring stability. Instead, it brought disappointment. He abandoned her after 3 years, leaving a wound that shaped her relationships for decades. Her second marriage to actor Philip Ober was even worse. His jealousy of her rising career turned into verbal, emotional, and physical abuse. Each success for her felt like a failure for him, and he punished her for it. The trauma would haunt her for years to come. During a national tour in 1945 for The Voice of the Turtle, the pressure finally broke her. After years of emotional strain, constant travel, and ongoing abuse, Vivian suffered a mental breakdown. She later said with painful honesty, "Let's face it, I cracked up." Therapy became a lifeline she depended on for the rest of her life. She even began visiting psychiatric hospitals to comfort others, understanding their pain because she carried so much of her own. Yet even as she healed, new opportunities appeared. Vivian returned to Broadway with renewed strength. She delivered more than 500 performances in Let's Face It, proving again that she belonged among the best. But Hollywood remained distant. She appeared in only 2 films, The Secret Fury and The Blue Veil, before realizing that movies wouldn't give her the future she wanted. Everything changed in 1951 during a performance in La Jolla, California, when Daisy Arnaz and producer Jess Oppenheimer spotted her. Without hesitation, They hired her for a new show called I Love Lucy. When Lucille Ball learned Vivien Vance had been cast as her TV best friend, she wasn't thrilled. "She's too pretty," Lucy said. "She's my age, she has my hair color." To protect Lucy's glamorous image, the team changed Vivian's appearance: padded costumes, dowdy dresses, unflattering makeup. Off-screen, Vivian was stylish and elegant, but the world would only know her as the frumpy Ethel Mertz. And with that role came the rumor that would follow her forever: the infamous weight gain contract. For decades, fans believed Vivian was forced to gain weight to make Lucy look thin. But the truth, there was no contract at all. Lucy had joked about it at a party, and Hollywood gossip twisted it into fact. Vivian was hurt that so many believed such a humiliating lie. And just as she was adjusting to the role, she met her on-screen husband, William Frawley. She jokingly asked, "Who's that old man?" not knowing he overheard every word. In that moment, a feud was born that would last a lifetime. The tension between Vivian and Frawley was instant and permanent. Frawley resented the age difference and felt insulted by her comment. He mocked her appearance, criticized her singing, and called her cruel names. He even referred to her as a sack of doorknobs. Meanwhile, Vivian privately disliked him just as much. Yet on screen, their chemistry was effortless, pure professionalism hiding pure hatred. By 1953, Frawley's drinking made the situation worse, slowing production and straining the entire cast. Vivian demanded her own dressing room to escape him. Producers tried everything to keep peace, but the feud only grew. In 1955, a Fred and Ethel spin-off was proposed. Frawley said yes immediately. Vivian refused without hesitation. She told producers, "The show won't work without Lucy and Daisy, and I will not spend one more day working with that man." People were stunned, but she stood firm. Fame wasn't worth misery. And years later, when Frawley died, Vivian felt no sadness, only relief that the tension was finally over. Behind the scenes, Vivian's personal life was falling apart again. Her marriage to Philip Ober grew more violent as her fame grew. She hid bruises under makeup and performed through panic attacks and overwhelming anxiety. Lucille Ball eventually confronted her and begged her to leave him. Vivian stayed longer than she should have, conditioned from childhood to endure pain silently. Her mental health suffered deeply, leading doctors to diagnose her with anxiety neurosis rooted in trauma and years of repression. One pain she rarely discussed was her inability to have children. A miscarriage early in her marriage crushed her hopes of motherhood. Every attempt after failed. She poured her love into Lucy and Daisy Arnaz Jr., treating them like her own. But watching Lucy raise her kids only deepened the ache she carried. After I Love Lucy, she tried returning to Broadway in 1966 with Don't Drink the Water, only to be fired during previews. The public humiliation struck harder than anyone realized. By the 1970s, Vivian was no longer chasing leading roles. She took commercial work like Maxwell House ads, not out of passion but necessity. It was a painful contrast to the early triumphs of her career. She had once been the first woman to win an Emmy for supporting actress, but the industry had grown cold, pushing her to the edges. Still, she kept going, determined to work even when Hollywood seemed to forget her. Her resilience became her quiet legacy. In 1973, Vivian received the diagnosis she had always feared: breast cancer. She underwent a mastectomy, chemotherapy, and additional surgeries as the cancer spread to her bones. Despite the pain, she stayed dignified, smiling in interviews and performing when her body allowed. Friends later said no one understood how much she endured because she refused to show weakness. She had spent her entire life hiding suffering, and illness was no exception. Her final major appearance was in Lucy Calls the President in 1977. Audiences saw Ethel Mertz return. They didn't know Vivian had a minor stroke during filming. Still, she delivered her lines flawlessly. She appeared once more in the short-lived series Sam, but her health declined quickly afterward. In her final months, she began writing letters describing the barriers she had faced: sexism, typecasting, and the weight of being locked behind one character for life. These letters became her final act of reclaiming her story. In the summer of 1979, Lucille Ball visited Vivian for the last time. They spent the afternoon laughing, reminiscing, and crying. When Lucy left, she walked out silently, knowing she was saying goodbye to the woman who had helped build one of the greatest comedy legacies of all time. On August 17, 1979, Vivien Vance took her final breath, and today, as her truth continues to surface, it becomes impossible to watch I Love Lucy the same way again. Her courage, her pain, and her unwavering strength reveal a woman far more complex than the character she played.